Hi everyone, it's Marianne, and for today's video, let's talk about importing plants 101. Thank you so much for joining me today, and today's video is going to be divided into 3 parts. The timestamps will be down in the description if you want to hop around, but part 1 would be unboxing some plants that I received from AroidAsia. Second part is talking about the pros and cons of importing plants, and third is the ethics, economics, and environmental impact of importing plants. And I hope you stay tuned from beginning to the end. We're definitely going to start with the unboxing because I know that is the fun part, but I hope you stick around all the way up to the third part because I think it's important so that we can have a more nuanced perspective and more well-rounded information when it comes to importing plants. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Marianne. Welcome to My Oasis Life, where I take you along my houseplant journey and share with you some of my tips and tricks along the way. I also create lifestyle content that is focused on sustainability, wellness, productivity, and also share some of my personal and travel vlogs here and there. So if those type of content interests you, make sure to subscribe to my channel by the end of this video, and also like this video and comment down below. I would love to hear from you. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So first part is unboxing plants that I received from AroidAsia. AroidAsia is one of the more well-known importing plant companies that is based in Indonesia. Back in March 19th, they reached out to me via Instagram saying they want to do a collaboration with me by sending me some plants for me to review on my YouTube channel and on my Instagram. And I will explain later why I said yes to AroidAsia. By the time we came to an agreement on our collaboration, it's March 23rd, and they asked me to pick 4 plants from their website, and they're gonna just send me additional ones. And then I sent them my shipping information and everything. It wasn't until a couple months later, like around May 28, that I finally received an email from them saying that my order was processing. So basically they're sending me the plants as if I actually ordered from them, but I didn't pay for any of the plants they sent to me. And it took about another month before they sent me an email that my order was shipped via DHL, and DHL said that they expect my shipment on June 27, which was Monday, but I didn't receive it until today, Wednesday, June 29th. So it was delayed a little bit. It got held up in New York. So it already arrived in New York last Friday, and it only got released in New York actually this morning, and then it went to DC, and from DC to my house here in Maryland. So the whole process takes about 3.5 months, and actually, for me at least, that is an anomaly because usually importing plants, not that I import plants a lot, but at least based on my couple of experience and experience of other people, it usually takes just about 3 to 4 weeks. But I think the delaying factors include that Ramadan started right after we agreed on the collaboration. And Indonesia is a predominantly Muslim country, so it was a holiday until Ramadan ended. And second, Indonesia is also kind of like slowing down or really cracking down on import and export of plants from their country. They're limiting the number of phytosanitary certificates that they're issuing. Also, import and export laws of plants here in the United States also have tightened significantly since the start of COVID. And of course, there's a shipping delay worldwide. And in the second and third part of this video, I'm gonna go more in depth on that. But for now, let's open the box that I received from AroidAsia. So I took out the part where it has my address and everything, but this is the phytosanitary certificate that came with the order. And the phytosanitary certificate cost $30. I actually don't know if AroidAsia covers it if you just order from them regularly, or you have to pay for it separately, because some do include the cost of phytosanitary certificate when you import plants, and it's already baked into the price of the plants. This entire thing cost $340. And when it actually delivered in the US, I had to pay import duties of $35 that I paid myself. I didn't ask AroidAsia to pay for it or refund me. So I don't really have high hopes for this, to be honest, because it is summer. And as I mentioned earlier, I was hoping that I was gonna get this by early spring. I didn't. And honestly, right now is a super bad time to be ordering plants because it is summer. But it looks like they kind of packed it pretty well, and it has insulation with a styrofoam, and it has a thank you card. It says, "Thank you for your order. You made our day. We hope we make yours, AroidAsia." And this is what the box looks like. And I can already see some plants peeking, but let's see how well they arrived. So the first one, I can already see some plants that are mushy. So the first one is the Hoya carnosa crimson queen. I think this is the only plant that they sent me that I actually already have. So let's open it up and see. Oh, it actually looks pretty good. And they put silica gel packets, so I think that helped a lot with the moisture. Here is the Hoya crimson queen, and I'll be opening the roots later to check on it, but as far as foliage goes, this one came perfect. So next one is the Epipremnum pinnata variegata, and this is one of the plants I requested, and this is a wish list plant of mine for a long time. And I had a chance to get a cutting of it in the swap, but it didn't propagate well, so I actually already lost it. But oh my god. Oh my god. So look at that. It's so variegated too. At least a couple of the leaves are, and the leaves are huge. It has new growth. Everything also looks well, and it has like aerial roots and everything. So look at that. Oh my god, so 2 for 2 so far. I mean, I don't know about the root condition, but as far as the foliage, 2 for 2 so far. So that is amazing. Oops, there's actually a leaf that fell. This one, but it's not that variegated, so that's okay. And let's move on to the next one. Okay, so this one, okay, so this one's supposed to be the Alocasia sente variegated. This is the plant that I was the most excited to receive, but as you can see, it is the most mushy, and I don't think I have high hopes for this one. So, okay, so I don't think this survived. This is the casualty, which is unfortunate, but yeah, so this one is a casualty. Look at that. Oh no. And this is the one that I was looking forward most to, but we'll see if we can rehab it. But it would have looked so nice. It's supposed to have come with 2 leaves, but the other one is obviously dead, and this one is dying, and it's actually about to die because it got broken off at the top. But we will see the condition of the roots later, and hopefully it's something that we can save. But yeah, so kind of sad because this is the one that I'm anticipating the most, the Alocasia sente variegata. Okay, so let's check the rest of the plants. We have about 4 more, I believe. And the next one is already kind of exposed, and it looks pretty good, and I already know what this is. This is the Piper. I can't pronounce the name though. I'll put the correct name on the screen. This is the packaging. As you can see, it's already peeking. So far, I think it looks great overall. Let me open it up. And the reason I picked this out because the leaves remind me of a anthurium or a syndapsis. The other Piper, which Pipers have becoming popular lately, but the most popular one is the Piper cordatum. But the cordatum looks a little bit more begonias. This is to me. It has a more like a pink coloring instead of silver one. This one is definitely more silvery. So this one reminds me more of like an anthurium slash syndapsis. So that's why I picked this one. And it's also looking good. It has many leaves. And again, we'll judge the roots later. But so far, so good. So right now, only one that is disappointing. So the next one is a plant they picked out for me, which is the Anthurium crystallinum. So I do have the Anthurium clarinervium. It is not working out well for me. I had it for more than a year now. It hasn't pushed out more than 4 leaves for me. And it hasn't really been producing large leaves. And the leaves it has keeps yellowing. So it never goes beyond 4 leaves. This one. Ooh, so this one is a lot more promising. Okay, so this one's a lot more promising. Like the leaves are huge, and I got like 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean 6, technically 7, but this one is dying out, and the other 2 are really small. But like the other 4, it's really huge, especially like the latest growth. And again, also in good condition, perfect condition as far as the foliage goes. We will see with the root system if it's actually the same. And got 2 more plants to go. So the second to the last one is a plant that I picked out, which is the Philodendron Splendid. And one of the reasons that I picked out the Alocasia and this one is to pick out plants that I want to try. Like I made a commitment early this year to take a chance on plants that I don't really go for. One of them is philodendrons. Surprisingly, I know a lot of people are into philodendrons and they're not necessarily the hardest plant to take care of, unlike the Alocasia, but they never really appealed to me. So I was like, you know what, since I'm getting this for free, I'm not paying for it, let me try my hand on one of the philodendrons, and the one that caught my eye is the Philodendron Splendid. So here's what it looks like. The leaves look pretty good. There's a new growth coming in, and yeah, it looks pretty good. It has some like discoloration going on already, so I don't know if this leaf will survive, but we will see. But it has 3 leaves, new growth coming in, and so far it looks really good. Okay, so the last one is a Syngonium plant, and this is the Syngonium Magic Marble. Based on their photos, it looks a lot like the Syngonium albo. It kind of reminds me of the Enjoy pothos. So if the Syngonium albo is kind of like the Marble Queen or the Snow Queen pothos, the Syngonium marble is more like an Enjoy pothos or Pearls and Jade pothos. So we will see. And my Syngonium albo was actually also from an import order from Thailand, and at least in my experience with that, Syngoniums do import well, so we'll see if this one is the same. Okay, Syngonium marble, it looks pretty good. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaves. As far as, oh well, 4 leaves now since one dropped off. As far as variegation goes, honestly, I'm not really super impressed with it. It just looks like a regular white butterfly Syngonium with this one. But with the newer ones, or the one that's a little bit more variegated or have a more distinctive variegation, it looks like this. So it does really remind me a lot of the Syngonium albo, which I have right here. So if you look at them side by side, I still prefer the Syngonium albo, but it is a pretty plant. If you don't have the Syngonium albo and you have access to this one, then maybe go for it, but it's not a Syngonium that I would go for myself. But I already have the Syngonium albo, that's why I can say that. But maybe for some people, this is a plant that they would like to add to their plant collection. So these are all the plants that I got from AroidAsia: the Syngonium marble, the Philodendron Splendid, the Anthurium crystallinum, the Piper Silverticum. Again, I'll put the correct name on screen. The Apropetum pinnatum variegata, the Hoya carnosa crimson queen, the Alocasia sente, which is like the only casualty in this plant order, but it is the one that I was looking forward to receiving the most. While I check the root system of these plants, I'll be talking about the pros and cons of importing plants, and as I try to rehab them, I'll be talking about the ethics, economics, and the environmental impact of importing plants. So I really hope you stay tuned for those parts. But yeah. Okay, so now I am going to be checking the roots of the plants and as well talking about the pros and cons of importing plants. So let's start with the crystallinum and let me talk about the pros. And the first pro is definitely getting wishlist plants for a lot cheaper than you would have gotten them domestically if you can find them at all. And I think that is the biggest appeal of importing plants, is you can get like this one, the crystallinum is $35. It is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 leaves. And I mean, the 2 are small, but it's like came in a really good condition. And you look at the roots, it's amazing. And this one is for $35. So that is definitely one of the biggest appeal of importing plants. And the second pros of importing plants is you get to support the local economy where these plants are indigenous to, and you're supporting also the local people where these plants are native at. So like this one are from Indonesia. So definitely the money that you are spending goes to the people of Indonesia, and they benefit directly from the plants grown in their rainforests, in their community, or just wherever. So this is the one, it's a Syngonium marble. The roots don't look that good, but in my experience with Syngoniums, they can be rehabbed very easily, no matter what. So I'm just gonna cut these roots and figure out them later. And then honestly, for me, the pros are pretty much that the cost of getting wish list plants for cheaper and supporting the local economy from wherever you are importing the plants. For the cons, I have like a few lists of importing plants because one, yes, you are getting them for cheaper, but that's because you're getting a plant that is not established, as you can see. And all of them, no matter what condition they come in, they're gonna need rehabilitation, they're gonna need acclimation. And so that's just like one thing that you have to consider. So even if they look good on the photos, or even if they look good now as I receive them, a couple of days, a few days with me here, they might not do as well. And this one is the Hoya Crimson Queen. And honestly, in my experience importing plants in the past, I probably spent more in the rehabilitation of the plants than I did when I was importing the plants. So that is another thing that you have to consider. So the roots of the Hoya Crimson Queen are pretty okay. They're fine roots and the leaves are still very supple. But all of this definitely need rehydration. Next con of importing plants is definitely high risk because you are not going to get the plant as pictured, as mentioned. And factors beyond the seller's control and your control will going to be in play before the plants arrive to you. So the seller might be like completely legit. They know what they're doing. They pack the plants perfectly. AroidAsia, I think, did a good job of packing this, but there are things that you don't control when it gets shipped to you. Like it could get held up at customs. This was held up in customs for 5 days in New York. Weather, right now there's a heat wave, and I was expecting these plants like 2.5 months ago because this entire process started in March, and I'm only receiving them now. So this is the Aperpenum pinnatum. These are the roots. It looks pretty good. Not a lot of rotting, but definitely needs hydration as well. So I'm really glad so far that all the roots are looking pretty good. This is the Piper sylvaticum. This is the root system of it. It looks a bit dry. I don't know if some of it rotten, but I feel like I have to propagate the leaves individually because I don't think it's going to survive as a long vine like this. And the last con is, yes, you're getting a wish list plant for cheap, but factoring the additional costs that I mentioned in rehabilitating them, import duties, and then the higher risk involved of actually shipping plants, even if like the seller do you right. A lot of the plants that you can import can actually be found domestically now. And yes, it's a bit of a look and you have to wait. And yes, they might be for a lot higher prices than the prices listed on import websites. But again, when you add the additional costs, not just the shipping, not just the phytosanitary, everything else, plus the rehabilitation factor of the plants, knowing that you're not going to get them as pictured, sometimes it might be better to just look to see if you can get them domestically than just importing them. So this one is the Philodendron Splendid. This is the root system. It looks pretty good. Like, I'm fairly surprised that a lot of the root system looks good. There's like a bit of rotting down here that I can see, but so far everything looks good. And this is the last one. So this is the only plant that didn't come in a good condition, and I was kind of disappointed because it's the plant that I was looking forward to the most, and this is the ADVOCACY Sente variegated. And I'm hoping that the bottom part is something that I could propagate and rehab. It's not looking good. So this is the bottom part of it. I am not sure if this is still salvageable, but we will attempt, we will try, because the roots aren't looking good as well. So for right now, it's actually already evening. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna wash all of this, get the phytosanitary chemicals off it, and then I'm gonna put them in water so that they get rehydrated. And then tomorrow, or maybe a few days later, I'm going to do something else to help rehab these plants. So now I'm just placing them in water. This water has Super Thrive, hydrogen peroxide, and aquasave. And I'm just gonna leave them overnight, maybe a few days, changing the water daily and see what happens. And then I'm going to actually rehab them. Okay, so this is the day after, and this is the Sylvaticum. I think I do have to cut it up already so that the leaves would survive. So this is going to be a bunch of single leaf cuttings, I think, because this one is not doing well either, the root system, and it's not going to support this entire vine. So I'm just going to start cutting it up. Okay, so this one cutting. All right, over here. That is one. The nodes, probably going to propagate the nodes. So I'm just going to do that. And then so now I have a bunch of single leaf cuttings that I am going to start propagating in water first. See how that works, and then I'm going to propagate it in moss or something. We will see. Just gonna trim that off. Here she is, a bunch of single leaf cuttings now, and I'm just gonna let the leaves dry out a little bit, and once it does, I'm gonna put it in my mini greenhouse so that it will propagate a little bit faster. This is what's left of the AroidAsia centiverde, and I'm gonna propagate it in moss and see what happens. So welcome to part 3 of my video where I talk about the ethics, economics, and environmental impact of importing plants, as well as share with you how I plan to rehab the plants that I received from AroidAsia. And it's a little bit of a time jump. It's been 72 hours since I received the plants. And as you may have seen in earlier clips, I have washed the roots and then created a hangover cure or an acclimation cocktail for my plants that I got from AroidAsia, so that they could rehydrate and kind of bounce back from the shipping process that they went through. And I plan to keep them in that solution for about 48 hours, but after 24 hours, I had to make some changes because the plants were falling off the container. So I had to separate some of them, which I'm about to share with you. But first, let's talk about the topic at hand. And I have made strong statements in the past against importing plants, even though I have imported twice previously. First one is from Thailand, and the second one is from Indonesia as well, but through an Etsy order and not through any of the bigger export companies. And I came out against importing houseplants because I think it was getting out of hand and people weren't really considering the ethics, economics, or environmental impacts of importing houseplants. Back in Vlogmas, in my unpopular opinions on houseplants video, I said that importing plants should be limited to those who have grower's license or plant dealer license. Everyday people like me shouldn't be able to import plants because I feel like a lot of us, including myself, don't really know what we're doing or getting ourselves into when we are importing houseplants. However, whenever you take such a black and white view on an issue, it's usually wrong when you just completely say no or completely say yes to something. And like many things, importing plants is a very nuanced issue. So since I have kind of educated myself, and it's mostly thanks to Sean of Only Plants through watching his videos, this is a topic that he is very passionate about, importing and exporting plants, especially since he is Indonesian and based in Indonesia. So he has a lot of knowledge and opinion and experience when it comes to importing and exporting plants. So I really learned a lot from him through watching his videos. So I'm not going to repeat everything he said in his videos. I encourage you to go out, check out his channel. I'm pretty sure you're watching him already. I would link his channel down in descriptions if you haven't yet though, so go check him out. And he has really lots of important things to say when it comes to this topic. But I'm going to talk about like 3 or 4 points that he talked about that really resonated with me when it comes to having a more nuanced view when it comes to importing plants. And I will do that as I share with you how I'm going to rehab my plants. So let me share with you what has happened so far since I've gotten these plants. As mentioned, it's been like 72 hours. And after the 24-hour mark, I had to separate them already. So first one is the Alocasia Centiverde that we know didn't arrive well. It's the only one that didn't arrive well. And I'm trying to see if I can salvage it. So I have put it in moss, and I have to cut off the top parts because there wasn't really no point of saving the leaf there because it was yellowing and it was broken off. And I'm just trying to get this 2 parts to callus because this one has been kind of like yellowing and rotting continuously. So I'm just gonna let that callus and put it in the greenhouse that I have at the back. So this is the Alocasia Centiverde. So hopefully something would come out of it. There's no roots to be saved. It's just this part, and hopefully something would come out of it. But if it does, it's gonna take a long time, but we'll be patient about it. And second one is the Piper sylvaticum. So I cut it into single leaf cuttings, and I'm currently placing it in water. And it's also currently in my mini greenhouse. I just took it out for this video. So it is residing there for now. And as far as the nodes that I was able to collect, also the one that has some root on it, and I'm currently propagating it also in sphagnum moss and also placing it in the mini greenhouse. And yes, all of this could fit in the mini greenhouse. That one is kind of spacious, even though it doesn't look very big. And this one is the Syngonium marble. And also this one didn't have an extensive root system after I washed it out already. So this one would root pretty fast. I think some of it actually have started to grow because in my experience, Syngonium does grow roots pretty fast and pretty vigorously. So I am not really worried about this plant not bouncing back because like I mentioned, my Syngonium alba was also a import order. That one was from Thailand, and it bounced back pretty quick. So, but I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this plant. So this is probably one of the plants from this import order that I plan to give away in the future. And the next one is the Anthurium clarinervium. So this one has the best root system and best foliage out of everything that I got from AroidAsia. And this is the one that keeps toppling over. So I decided to already place it in leca. I was debating whether to put it in moss or put it in leca. But since my other Anthurium, the Anthurium clarinervium, is in leca, so I decided to put this in leca, and that way I could also easily monitor the roots to see how it's doing. And so far it's doing well, so I'm really excited about that. And the leaves were also kind of like flimsy at first. Like this one is still kind of a bit flimsy, but maybe because it is a new growth, but it has bounced back since. And the other leaves have firmed up, but like the smaller leaves down here, they were like yellowing. So I think I took about 2 of them, and this is what it looks like. And as far as like humidity levels, I have placed them in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet that I already took out of the room, and I placed it in the other room. But the thing is though, the reason I took it out because the grow lights were no longer working inside of it. So I had to kind of like do a makeshift grow light inside of it. So it doesn't really look properly set up, but at least inside of the IKEA greenhouse cabinet, you can get some humidity. Plus anyways, it's been like humid the past few days. So when it comes to humidity level, I wasn't really worried whether these plants are getting humidity or not because it has been humid the past few days. So yeah, so that's the Anthurium clarinervium. And the last 3 plants are the ones that's still in that hangover solution that I created, although I have changed the water since. And in here I have the Philodendron Splendid, the Hoya Crimson Queen, and the Epipanum pinnatum. So the Hoya Crimson Queen actually looks pretty good. It had another vine coming out of it that also has like empty nodes and like leaves that are not doing well. So I just cut it off. And as mentioned, I already have a Hoya Crimson Queen. So this is a plant that I'm not really interested in keeping. So it's also a plant that I'm probably going to give away. And as far as acclimating this, it has a good root system. So this one, I will just pot up in soil or in sphagnum moss. So this one, I really have no issue with this one. And if it doesn't survive, to be honest, like I said, I have like a full pot of Hoya Crimson Queen. But if it does survive, I am going to give away this plant. So for the last part of this video, I'll be potting up the Epipanum pinnatum and the Philodendron Splendid into sphagnum moss and try to give them some sort of a pole because they definitely need some support. And as I do that, I'll be talking about the ethics, economics, and environmental impact of importing plants. And what I'm using is sphagnum moss, and that usually works for me for rehabbing plants. I did that for my, well, pretty much all of the plants that I have imported. The Thicon, the Sedapsa Silver Hero, the Syngonium albo as mentioned, those survived because I was using sphagnum moss in them. So here is the Philodendron Splendid. As you can see, it has a pretty good root system that I can work with. So hopefully this one survives. But yeah, so the number one issue that comes up with importing plants is poaching and where we source our plants. And as Sean said in this video, poaching is not a black and white issue. All of our plants have been poached at one point. And a lot of the arid plants that we import, particularly from Indonesia or Thailand, they are actually not native to those countries. They are native to South America. So this philodendron is not native to Indonesia. So plants like Epipenum, Syndapsus, Hoyas, like the Piper that I got, is native to Southeast Asia. But like a lot of philodendrons and monsteras are native to South America. So in the debate of which is better, buying domestically or buying import plants, with buying domestically, we know the big growers in the US, they're open about going to countries to source plants that they bring back to the US to grow and sell to us. That's how we end up getting rare plants that are now cheaper in stores at big box stores. And in that scenario, locals in Indonesia or whatever country where the plants are native to, where they're taken or poached from, do not benefit from the profit this big US growers are making. What they do to get the plants sourced from these countries is they often pay hunters or poachers to get the plants for them in their native habitat. And while they might have permits and paperwork to do all that, does it really make it ethical or considerate of the environmental impact it makes to the local community and to their wildlife? And they're not just taking one plant, they're taking like several plants, like tens or even hundreds of plant samples with them. And sometimes the poachers and hunters themselves just want to cut out the middleman and make the money from themselves, and they export it directly to us. So that way they could directly benefit from the profit of like the plants growing in their native land. But also in the long run, what they are doing could have great environmental impacts since a lot of the plants that they're taking are not being protected. So that is why my previous stance of only those who have permits should be able to import plants is kind of a stupid stance, because as I've learned, just because they have permits, which by the way is very easy to get, all you have to do is to fill out an application form and pay a small fee and you will get it. There's really no background check or anything or qualifications to be a plant dealer or get a license to be a plant dealer or grower. So just because they have permits doesn't mean they're always conducting the entire process ethically or sustainably. And as buyers, it's of course definitely important that we are aware where our plants are sourced, but at the same time, the entire onus or responsibility for that shouldn't be just on the buyers. It should be on the sellers as well, the growers, and of course the governments involved, that where plants are being exported and plants are getting imported. And as I mentioned earlier, there are steps being taken by governments from either side, the one that's exporting and the ones that importing. But there's still a lot more to be done when it comes to just making sure that we can trace where our plants are sourced very easily, and that at the same time the entire process is conducted ethically and sustainably, as well as communities where these plants are native to are compensated properly when we take the plants away from them. So this is the Philodendron Splendid. I did give it like a little bit of plank and like velcroed a little bit just to give it support. Eventually I might air layer this part so that I could, because I think this one is going to die off, so I kind of like want to air layer it, but we will see. But this is the Philodendron Splendid, so let's move on to the Epipenum pinnatum. And as you can see, it has a good root system as well, not as much as the Philodendron Splendid, but really good. And it has coiled a bit, so it's also like trying to get the other parts to grow, and I'm all for that. So I'm just gonna try to make like kind of coil it in the pot before I give it a plank to grow on. But I see I could probably give this one a plank to grow to but I think of just like making it coil like that and have the aerial roots grow into the sphagnum moss and eventually maybe cut them up. So I have like several epipetum pinnatum plants. So continuing discussion, like we definitely should know where our plants are sourced and they're ethical as possible. So when I decided to work with AroidAsia, I did ask them where they source their plants, and they said to me right away that they grow the plants themselves and also work with local farmers. And of course, I also check their socials, their websites, their reviews, and all of that, just to make sure that nothing huge or terrible is going on with them as a company. And so far, I found nothing. But of course, they themselves are not going to badmouth their own company. But what I did like about them is they're very communicative. They answer my messages and questions right away. And as far as like one of the bigger companies that approached me, honestly, one of the reasons I probably didn't work with them or didn't really push working with them is because when I asked them the question, where do your plants come from? They kind of like evaded it and didn't really answer it. With AroidAsia, at least they were very upfront about where they source their plants and everything. But of course, I could only take their word for it. It's really hard to also verify and vet all the information just based on their own socials and their own claims, right? But like I said, when I did research of the company, I didn't really found anything terrible. Of course, like any other export companies, they have reviews of like people receiving plants not well. And that's just, again, the risk that you're willing to take when it comes to importing plants. And that's the thing, even if the company that you choose to import plants from is very open about their sourcing and everything, there's the shipping process. The seller could do everything right, you as a buyer could do everything right, but the shipping process is where everything goes up in the air. Plus, with the shipping aspect as well, the chemical used on plants to be allowed to be shipped so that they could get the phytosanitary certificate, they're actually very terrible for the plants. And of course, there's also the carbon footprint that we create every time we import plants. So even if I have a more nuanced view on importing plants now, I probably wouldn't be importing plants constantly. I'll probably only do it once a year, maybe twice a year. I doubt it. But if I could source the plant locally, even if I pay a little bit more, I would still just buy it domestically because, at least for me, when I take in all the factors, even if I'm paying a little bit more to buy it domestically, I am probably still spending the same amount of money when I consider everything else and all the risk involved in importing plants. And so even right now, even I'm pretty satisfied with the plants that I receive from AroidAsia. I don't recommend ordering plants right now because it's the dead heat of summer here in the US. I would wait until late summer to place your order. And since it usually takes about a month for your order to be processed, like the 3-month wait is an anomaly in this case because, like I said, it was Ramadan in Indonesia. So I think that's delayed the process for quite a bit. But usually it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to process an import order. So if you order it like late August, middle of August, you get it like middle of September, late September, that is pretty good. And even if delayed a little bit more than a month, say you get it like in 2 months, it's still October, it's still pretty good. It's fall weather. You're gonna get the plants during a much better season than we have right now. And also in Southeast Asia, the weather is also pretty cool because summer in Southeast Asia starts actually from March. So summer there is March to June, and ours is from July to September. So there's really a very short window for you to order plants, especially if you're in a place that experiences 4 seasons. You also have to like consider the rainy season and the dry season in Southeast Asia if that's where you are importing plants. And that's it for importing plants 101. I hope you enjoyed unboxing the plants that I received from AroidAsia, as well as seeing the conditions that they came in and how I plan to rehab them. I'm definitely going to give you updates on these plants. I'm also probably going to give away a couple of them. So make sure you are subscribed to my channel. I'll definitely put out an updated video, as well as share updates on my Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. So make sure you are checking those out as well. And again, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you're new here, I hope you subscribe. I come up with videos every week. And if you found any value in this video, please do consider sending me a super thanks. And if you haven't yet, go check out these videos up here until my next one. But until then, I see you. I appreciate you. Take care of yourself and each other, and have a plentiful day. Bye!